the students in engineering colleges, they are coming from university, the social department, as well as we have you know chemical engineering also.
Okay. So these are not all just IIT students.
No, this is not IIT Dharwad. These are in and around Dharwad city, mostly coming from. We have few participants coming from Mumbai and Hyderabad as well.
Okay. Okay.
And you are joining from Hyderabad, no, madam?
Yes, I've just come in.
Okay. Yeah, just now you have unshared, I think.
Yeah. So you are able to see it now, right? I will sharing it now. Just one
Yeah,
second.
please.
Just one second. You can see it now, right?
Yes, it's coming up.
Okay.
We can't see the first slide. It's not on the first slide, it's on the second one.
Yeah. You can go to the slide number 1.
Yeah, this is slide 1.
No, this is slide 2, Pal, the first one.
It's taking some time, I think. I can see the slide 1.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks.
Do you want to go to the slideshow mode?
Yeah. This is slideshow. Can you see it now?
Yeah, we can.
Slideshow mode we don't see. But
I think there is a lag because I can see it on my screen.
Okay. But we are able to see the slides properly now. I think it should
Not
be
on
okay.
the slideshow mode.
No, it's not. I don't think it's on a slideshow mode.
Not on slideshow mode. Actually, you have to share entire screen. If you share the entire screen when you're sharing, no, then then we would see the slideshow mode.
Okay. Just one second. But this is presentation, right? So it will not open in the Chrome.
Yeah, if you can share while sharing, no, in the Google Meet, the sharing option. If you
Yeah.
share not a window but your entire screen.
Yeah, but that doesn't work, I think. Just one sec. Okay, I think we should.
Okay, let's just continue with what it was, whatever you can do.
Yeah. Sure.
So, yeah, I will briefly introduce you, madam, to the.
Sure.
Yes. So, we have Ira Shinoy. Ira Shinoy is the founder CEO for Youth for Jobs. So, you can go to the website www.youthforjobs.org, which focuses on mainstreaming youth with disabilities in education and the workplace. Okay? In the process, it helps companies to be inclusive and experience the business case of hiring youth with disabilities. In last 10 years, Youth for Jobs has become the largest organization in the space in this space in South Asia and is recognized as system changer. So Youth for Jobs trains youth with disabilities in market use skills. So we have, madam, you can go ahead, madam.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor Dheeraj, for inviting me. I wish I could have personally come to Dharwad because it's one of the places for me. It's on my to-do list because of the wonderful musical heritage the place has. So next time. When I was studying, like all of you, I really did not think of words like social impact or doing good. I was a journalist, a business journalist after working in the corporate, then moved on to be a television correspondent. And as I did work in the rural areas, basically looking at stories of innovations in IT for the CNN program, um, there came a time when I started thinking that it was really not enough to write about these stories or to capture them on television. It was necessary for me to do some hands-on work. And every day in the morning, I would spring out of my bed and think about, this. And I think it's not just for me, but for any of you who want to do good. What happens is that if the need to do good is and the urge to do good is strong, then the forces conspire to make it happen. And that's what it happened for me. So the last 24, 25 years, I began my journey first um, in the government, heading India's first skilling mission for the government of Andhra Pradesh called the EGMM. Um, it was the World Bank money for the state. I built a mission at scale, working with the SHGs and anyone who wanted to understand how rural and tribal youth could get into jobs used to come to look at our work. After that, I moved to the World Bank's UN, and then decided to do something on my own and look at youth who were the most vulnerable, which are youth with disabilities, and to see how um, we can skill them and put them into jobs. Next, please. Next slide, Pal.
Yes, I did. Just one sec. Can you see it now?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
So this is all of you can see Subhashri on the screen. She's from Vellore. She was born without any disability, but by 11, she and her sister began slipping on the stairs. And the doctors told them that they have a something called the muscular dystrophy. It has no cure, but what happens is your muscles start deteriorating, and the progression can be fast for some, like her sister who's on the bed, and a little slower for people like Subhashri. So, with a lot of challenges, she had educated herself, she had done her MCOM, but of course, there was absolutely no job. Every time she would pass the online interview, but when she went for the actual interview and they saw she had a disability, they would say, "This year, no job." In COVID, especially, it was really tough for her because her father died. Her mother, could barely manage the household. And it was so important for her, but yet she would get almost 100 rejections or no replies a day. So we tooled her, oriented her, and we put her at a work from home opportunity where she earns almost about a 4 lakhs annually. It was fantastic for her as she, called me up and told me. She said that her relatives used to tell her every day, saying, "Why don't you die? You can't even go to the toilet," because she's on a wheelchair. And today, the same relatives come and pat her on the back because she earns far, far more than any of her relatives in that community of theirs. And not just that, she has such a giving back spirit. She There's a small WhatsApp group for those with neural disabilities. She's teaching them, helping them translate documents from Tamil to English so that they can get their disability card, and supporting the children in various ways so that they can be educated. And that is the impact of a job, because a job is just not economic empowerment. What it does is, especially for persons with disability, it just transforms it, the whole life, because the base level is so low and everything is a challenge. Next, please. So this is Ankita, who's nearer home to Dharwad. She's from Mangalore, a place which is also my roots. So she's a speech and hearing impaired girl, very shy. She came to our training center. We trained her for 2 months. We put her in a back office job. When she was going to the bus stop, another speech and hearing impaired boy saw her, fell in love. They got married, and he was working somewhere. But in COVID, his job went. But by then, she had picked up so much courage, so much confidence that she took her husband to her workplace and got him also a work from home job during COVID. So today, both of them are working from the home, what you call a dink family or a double income family. And therefore, their lives will surely become much better and move closer to yours or mine. Next, please. Um, in our country and developing countries, quite often disability is preventable and it's not their fault. Could be that the mother can't afford food when she's carrying a baby and therefore the kid has a birth defect. Sometimes it's the water they drink. Near Hyderabad, you have Nalgonda. Because of fluorosis, you have the largest amount of disability there. Sometimes it's like autism and neurological, which people don't understand. So they call them queer. They keep them hidden in the home because parents think that, this is a curse on the family. So census doesn't capture it. So when we began our training center first, we really had a lot of problems because when we said that we were going to train youth and put them into jobs, everyone just shook their head and thought we were a fly-by-night operator. Next, please. So if you look at statistics, one in out of every seven in the world has a disability, and the numbers are really increasing. After COVID, it's like really, really multiplied. Um, and their education levels are poor, their employment therefore is poor. But the statistics which I looked at was the fact that 80% of them live in developing countries like India. So I asked myself, can I develop for the country and for the world a model for scale? I had done this before in the government, and I said, can I do it again in a more vulnerable space? So the vision was that can I move them out of the vicious cycle of poverty, next please, to the virtuous cycle of opportunity through something which I knew best, that is to skill them, see if I can put them into good jobs. I actually thought it would be very easy because I done it at scale in the government. Of course, I done it for rural and tribal, so I thought disability will be easier too. But little did I know, um, we began with what no one had thought of. We began with what Bharat needs, which is youth with disabilities from rural areas with less education, giving them 21st century skills, giving them digital literacy, soft skills, life skills, in fact, everything which they miss in their home. We had special educators, sign languages. Next, please. Next. But we were surrounded by can'ts. My corporate friends told me can't. Everyone said you can't. So I myself was a little worried when I began and founded Youth for Jobs. So to energize my own batteries, what I did was I traveled across the country talking to entrepreneurs with disability who were successful and to CEOs who were able to combine business and disability. The stories were extremely inspiring, and so I put it into a book which got released at the Jaipur Literary Festival and went on to become a bestseller. In fact, there's a Hindi version which was brought out because a lot of people wanted to read it. But more importantly, next please, the lesson it taught me was that if they can succeed in their lives despite the various challenges they have, definitely I can. And the message to the reader was, you can. So this was a book where, people would tell me that they gave it to their grandfather, they gave it to their daughter. So it's like an intergenerational book which seems to have inspired all. And certainly, I think it moved the boundaries forward for me where I was very clear that however difficult this path is, I cannot give it up. There are so many gaps between taking a rural youth with disabilities with less education to his first organized sector job. So systematically, we started looking at each gap and seeing how we can close it. Next, please. What we did is we put 1 year on the community, and that's what I always do, and 1 year on the markets to see how we can bring these two together. So, doing that today, of course, there were lots of struggles, but just to tell you, we've really achieved scale. We've become the largest in South Asia. We are in each and every part of India. And after this, I'll tell you how COVID we actually strengthened our work. We've touched about 9.4 million households. We are in colleges. We do some work in school. We have just to give you an example. Recently, we started working in youth from Jammu and Kashmir started enrolling with us. So I think about 2 weeks back, Pal, I think he had posted it on social media. Two of our youth from Jammu got jobs in Srinagar airport, and they wept with joy because they had never seen an airport before. So so for us, I think these numbers show that our impact, but our impact is really all these individual lives which we touch. Next, please. So this was COVID time, and COVID times were really hard for the youth with disabilities. That's because it's an invisible population. Just to give you a small example of challenges, the visually impaired didn't know how to get their rations, the speech and hearing impaired, none of the communication given by the government had sign language, so they didn't understand how do they take, all these various precautions, which you and I understand completely. And more importantly, we had to close all our training centers and send the youth back. But every one of them begged us not to stop training because they said this is the time they needed us most. It was actually a hunger issue for them. So we said, okay, let's launch Youth for Jobs online, knowing very well that it's very hard to launch such a program at the grassroots level. So before the launch, next please, we talked to a lot of stakeholders. We talked to the companies, we talked to the youth. So the timings were fixed. For example, women asked us for afternoon batches because they wanted to do their housework in the morning and then enroll in the afternoon. We realized we had to change our content because they didn't know how to get on to Google or Facebook or whatever platform you used. So we had to do orientation. It seemed to be jugaad for us all the time. But boldly, we were the first to launch a grassroots online training, that also to a very, very vulnerable community. And we found that even they used, different kinds of mechanism to make sure that they could join. Such was their enthusiasm. For example, we found youth who didn't have a good signal in their house, they would stand near a shop to catch a better signal. Or if they had one phone in the house, they would beg their farmer father whether they could use this phone for 3 hours and so on. So it was very inspiring for us, and we went. And what actually happened, we also had to run separate speech and hearing impaired batches. So online, we did about 102 videos for them so that we could have separate batches for them. And our phone lines were completely jammed. We had never realized what the desire for a job was in COVID times. Soon, our old alumni who were retrenched came back, and we had to do upskilling, which we didn't do before, and to link them to jobs. But the next question you would naturally ask me is where were the jobs in COVID times? Yes, the sectors which we worked had all stopped hiring. No retail jobs, no hospitality jobs, no telecom jobs. All these were no, no, no. But the e-commerce, logistics, manufacturing, these really saved us. And we put all our energies in working with the leading players in this field. Next slide, please. To just give you an example of Amazon, we did everything necessary. When Amazon decided to hire speech and hearing impaired, we gave them sign language instructors, we helped them to onboard these youth. Today, we have about 4,000 speech and hearing impaired youth working in Amazon alone. And what actually did this? That was so we built linkages with this new market, and what it did was it opened up to us because online means that you can reach remote corners. We reached very, very remote areas, which, before we had not reached before, and realized that what we were doing was really not enough. We are still not reaching what we call the real Bharat because there's so much to be done. But the joy also was the fact that wherever you go, whichever part of India, as I say, you have different disability. It can be a young boy or a young girl with disability. It's a different company, different incomes, you know, and it's a great sense of joy. Lulu is from Hyderabad. She works in JP Morgan. Often, her old mother always tells this story again and again because the brothers were very clear that when the mother dies and the mother is now 70 plus, they don't want to look after her. So today when she's working and independent, the mother saying that she blesses youth for jobs and so that she can die in peace. There's a Purva who's visually impaired, there's someone with autism, there's Gopal with cerebral palsy. So where there's Kiran who has an amazing voice who's with visually impaired. So different disabilities, different parts of the country, different geographies, and everyone an inspiring story. Next, please. In fact, we managed to scale in COVID times. The incomes went up because e-commerce pays more at the entry level compared to sectors like the retail and the others. We got far more number of people with disabilities who were from the scheduled caste. We got many from the aspirational districts. So the number of women went up, and this really enthused us. And many of those learnings we put into our next work. But the number of companies also we linked went up. So today we work with about, I think, 1,500 plus companies, both for the less educated and for the educated youth across the country. Next. We do sensitization workshop for them. This is at Google, where they began by volunteering for us, and now, in fact, at the Hyderabad campus, I think they have far more youth with disabilities than in Mountain View. Next, please. The next, I think, is IKEA. Yeah, in IKEA, they had mandated when all the international staff came that everyone has to go through a sensitization workshop with us. So everywhere, the message we basically give is that the company should hire not because it's a nice thing to do, but because it's a right thing to do, and that it helps their business. So wherever possible, we also ask them to measure it. Next, please. Like Foxconn, which is in Sri City. So their managing director of Asia Pacific, Josh, heard me at a conference and he said, "We hire girls. Never tried girls with disabilities. Can we work together?" So my team went there. We mapped the operations, found that out of the 64 steps, 40 steps youth with disabilities can do. We put a sign language instructor there to train the managers, and they found that our youth take a little longer time to settle in. But in 6 months, when they measured, they found that the errors in packaging had dropped drastically, productivity had increased by 50%, and retention was a high 95%. So Foxconn internally now has moved their targets of hiring persons with disabilities from 2% to 5% to a high 10% now. Okay. And that's what we do with a couple of companies where we do a deep dive. Next. So you can see these are a lot of companies volunteer with us in different ways. This is Google, where we had a program called Google Shine, where even the leaders participated in training youth with disabilities, especially those with less education across the country. And it was really inspiring for those youth also to have a Google leader who was speaking to them and participating in the training. Next, please. So this is a new initiative where we are spending a lot of time. It's called Swaraj Ability. Swaraj means, all of you know, it's the Gandhian word for freedom or independence. And ability because it leverages the ability of youth with disabilities through tech, trainings, and jobs. It's the first AI triggered accessible job platform for youth with disabilities. When we had won the Future of the Work award for Asia, every judge who had voted us unanimously among the competition told us that um, it's a natural thing for us to do to integrate forward and to set up a job platform. So we took partners for this. We had first the Office of the PSA, Government of India, who helped us in finding the right partner for technology, and we work with IIT Hyderabad for this. They give us the AI component. Um, for sparability. Then we've signed an MOU with CII, so the companies are coming on board. I wanted to cover all the 21 disabilities since no one has done this to date, and the Act mandates 21 disabilities. So we've signed an MOU with Nimhans. They wanted to set up their own platform, but when they saw us, they said there's no point in reinventing the wheel. So today we have various stakeholders who are coming on board this, and this to me this is our offering for the country because though we have spent and put in a lot of passion and money in it, it is not a youth for jobs product, but it is meant for every NGO, every company, every government who's working in the space to come on board and to see how we can make sure that the youth with disabilities get jobs. Next, please. So, what keeps me going every time? A lot of people ask me, what keeps me going? I think what keeps me going is each time we do a third party study on our work, the kind of impact which comes. This is a slide, for example, which shows the youth save and what do they do with their savings. So they clear their parents' high cost debts, they educate their siblings. If the mother or father falls ill, they are the ones who look after the health, so the health indicators improve, the educated indicators improve. And these same boys and girls now are becoming the change makers in their village. When they get down from the bus with the increased income and their voice, the whole village community and not just the family is so proud about them. Quite often, they are the only one in their family who brings money day in and day out. And especially if you're a girl with disabilities, then you're inspiring others in the village because in many cases we find even the landlord's son or daughter doesn't have a job and they wonder how this useless child with disability now has a job. And this I think really transforms them, gives them self-esteem, gives them self-confidence, and for us, the next phase of our work is actually to invest in them because one of the things we also realized in COVID time is that uh, these people, in our eyes may be poor, but as I keep saying, and in fact, I've just written an article on that, that everyone can give. So these people too have a great desire to give back. So we've taken a couple of our alumni who have this desire, and in some districts, we are investing in them in a capacity building program, giving them more skills to see if they can be the leaders of our program in those districts. Next, please. So as I end, I just want to say that, I always think there's a thriving world out there and there's a wilting world. I think for all of us, it's just some accident of fate that we are born on this side. So all of us need to, in our own ways, and really there's no big or small in this. I think we need to see how compassion and business can be integrated to transform the lives of the poor. I think every one of you here, 25 is a good number, need to make sure that in your path of progress, in your dreams, no one should be left behind. Thank you.
For sharing this wonderful talk, where you shared your experience in the real world. So, any questions from the audience? Please ask if you have any question. Yeah, please. Yeah, you will come and yeah.
Madam, it was quite heartening to hear your experience of working with the visually impaired and visually and hearing impaired. Madam, as per your observation, do you find some special inner strength in these people compared to the normal people, which drives them and put some determination and grit in their workspace?
Thank you. I think it's a very nice question because that's really true. I find that many of them do things which even I would not do, like, bungee jumping or various kinds of para Olympics. I think that many of them have this grit to persist because they have so many challenges to fight against. And if you don't have this grit, then I think it's very difficult to succeed in the kind of world we live in.
Yeah, so any more questions? Yeah, please go.
Madam, namaste. So, convey to the disability people, so how techniques are so handling counseling process, some ideas.
Okay. So you're asking me how do we counsel them, is it?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam.
Okay. Yeah, so I think counseling is very important, okay, because these people, because of the way the community treats them, they're a very low level, okay, they have no confidence in themselves, they have no self-esteem. So the first step when we meet people with disabilities in the villages, the first step is that we have to do lot of counseling to them, lot of counseling. So how do we do counseling? First is we show pictures of youth who have already got jobs, okay, and what a job means. Or if there's a youth in the village who's already working, we make him talk an address to all these people saying that, listen, you can get trained, you can be economically independent, you don't have to sit in the house, and be a drain on your family. So that's our counseling is mostly to tell them that they cannot keep thinking they cannot, they have to shift this to I can.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Yeah, please.
Hello, madam.
Hello.
How you categorize them when you are looking for the employment?
Yeah. Uh, Actually, it depends on the kind of the requirements of the companies. Okay, and quite often companies tell us when they give us the job profile, they tell us what kind of disability they want. Is it locomotor? Is it speech and hearing impaired? Is it low vision? They tell us what they want, and then accordingly, because our database is anyway segregated according to we have a very good MIS system. So ours is anyway segregated data-wise, education-wise. So we're able to do that matching.
Okay, so any more question? So in case there is no question, so let us thank Madam for this talk, and we'll try to have you in person sometime. Dharwad. Yeah. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Madam. Closing this session, Madam. Thank you.